I think the question you've raised has been there in people's minds certainly since the dawn of the classical age of Greek philosophy. I mean, for Plato, the key question is, how can I distinguish knowledge from opinion? In other words, what is something that everybody ought to think, and what is simply something that I think, but have no grounds for saying anybody else ought to think? And it's one of those wonderful things that at first sight it seems very, very simple. And then as you begin to explore it, it becomes so much more complicated. I think that I agree with you entirely. I think that in your question is this deep fear that lies will become accepted as truth. And I think that's a very real concern, because I would define a lie as something that is told to us knowing that it is not true. But I think in classical philosophy there's always this exploration of this demarcation between something that is sufficiently evidenced, sufficiently warranted, that everybody ought to believe it, and then things that people do believe but don't actually have absolutely secure grounds for believing. And in modern philosophy, you tend to find people talking about warranted belief or motivated belief, meaning something that you believe but you have good reason for doing so. I think in modern terms, we probably would try to distinguish between beliefs that any intelligent person should have if they consider the evidence. And as I was saying earlier, I mean, the area of logic and mathematics are perhaps the most resilient and robust of those. I mean, for example, Gödel's theorem is very, very unsettling if you're a philosopher, but the mathematics is absolutely irrefutable. There are two distinct proofs of Gödel's theorem, and it seems to me that is something we could say is established. But nonetheless, there are other areas where we must be very careful to realize that sometimes something may have a wide consensus within society, but isn't actually absolutely secure in terms of its evidential base. For example, a lot of moral and cultural beliefs are in that category, and although I myself accept many of them as true, if I was pressed, I would have to say I could not actually absolutely defend them. I believe passionately that rape is wrong. But if you were to say to me, can you prove to me that is right? I would have difficulty in doing so, because a radical Darwinianist would in effect say, well, actually, this might be a good way of getting the human gene pool enhanced or something like that. So there are problems there. You may have read Charles Taylor's very interesting book, The Secular Age, or Secular Age, which came out about 10 years ago. And in this book, one of the things he's looking at is this question: why is it that certain systems of beliefs achieve cultural ascendancy, when in effect they are no better evidence than others which didn't achieve cultural ascendancy? And he identifies key forces like the media, celebrities, a whole series of things which actually help us understand how this happened. But this isn't about something being true, it's about something having cultural traction or cultural influence. So you've raised lots of very good questions. I think I would want to say that it's really important to check out our beliefs. I think that is something we must do. But very often we find ourselves in the position of saying, well, I cannot absolutely prove this to be true, but nonetheless, I think the evidence is good enough for me to believe this, continue believing it, and maybe even commend it to others. Thank you.